This is Valley News Live at 5.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Kaylee Chella. For those of you who are anxious to hit the roads this holiday, we have an early Christmas present for you. The latest conditions are looking much better for our road warriors. Hutch Johnson joins us straight away for an update. Hutch?
All right, Kaylee, thank you so much. As we head into the evening hours tonight, we're quiet, and that beautiful setting sun on this winter solstice was something to behold after the skies cleared with our morning snow. Here's the good news that we're referring to. That is a first alert weather day for Christmas Eve has been canceled because it looks like that storm system taking a little bit different track and a little bit less intense. But this morning we woke up to a lot of fluffy flakes out there. 4 inches measured near Fargo, 4.2 Twin Valley, 3.1 in the Grand Forks area. So numerous 2 to 4 plus inch reports out there, including Thompson at 4.3 inches of snow. It's clearing out of here now. So these clear skies with fresh snow on the ground and light winds going to cause our temperatures in the early evening to fall fairly quickly. Many of us 0 or below as we go through midnight. But after midnight, there's a big change. Clouds start punching their way back in from the west. And Kaylee, that means temperatures will be warming. We have Wednesday flakes to talk about. And just because we've canceled that first alert weather day for Christmas Eve does not mean we won't have some wintry conditions to contend with. I'll spell all of it out in a moment.
All right, first alert canceled, Christmas Eve not canceled. Got it.
Right.
Thanks so much, Hutch. Well, like I said, the cold is sticking around and more people are venturing out on that ice. The thrill of ice fishing doesn't come without risks. On this first day of winter, Valley News Team's JC Dodd tells us what you need to know as that ice gets thicker.
I don't care if it's 20 below for 2 months. Ice is never 100% safe.
This year's lack of snow on top of the consecutive cold nights were a recipe for good ice formation.
It gave that ice time to kind of bulk up.
But anytime snow or high winds are in the forecast, the nature of the ice can change quickly.
Whether it's 2 inches or 22 inches, that ice, now that it's snow covered, forms slower.
The snow kind of acts as a blanket.
If there's a strong wind blowing, ice will form, but it doesn't form solid.
Fargo bait and tackle owner and avid ice fisherman Gary Gold says a $50 chisel
It'll save your life.
when venturing out onto the ice every few steps.
Spud bar, or chipper bar, too hard, as hard as you could chop in one spot.
If you don't get any water,
It's safe enough to hold you. Take a couple more steps and work your way out.
Lawler says the week between Christmas and New Year's is known as the wheelhouse season.
It's when people start to get real confident when the ice, with the ice thickness, and they start to venture out with their wheelhouses or their hard-sided fish houses.
But year to year, things can change.
Never go off of the calendar, always go off of the thermometer.
It's not really worth putting your life in jeopardy just for a few fish, so you got to make sure that it's safe.
JC Dodd, Valley News Live.
Lawler also says anytime you're headed outdoors, you should always leave a note behind saying where you're going and when you plan to be back. So if something wrong does happen, police can help find you. Well, the Fargo pawn shop employee who fired a gun at a fleeing armed robbery suspect pleaded guilty to reckless endangerment. It happened at the Mr. Money back in June. As part of a plea bargain, Kyle Ramsey will be placed on almost 1 year of unsupervised probation. If Ramsey completes probation, the case will be dismissed and the file will be sealed 2 months later. Ramsey said he shot at the windows of the robber's car so police would be able to find him later on. This man, Hunter Havisto, ended his days-long robbery spree at that Mr. Money in South Fargo, holding the store up at gunpoint and running off with over $2,000. With Omicron cases doubling every few days, President Joe Biden is out with a new plan to help slow the spread. Chris Pallone reports from Washington.
Good afternoon.
In the next phase of the fight against COVID-19, the Biden administration will send 500 million rapid tests to people who request them, set up more testing sites and vaccination clinics, and deploy 1,000 military members to hospitals where staff is stretched thin from a flood of COVID patients.
This is a critical moment. We also have more tools than we ever had before. We're ready. We'll get through this.
The moves come as the Omicron variant supplants Delta as the majority of new cases in the U.S. Mayors reinstate mask mandates, pro sports leagues postpone games, and cities reconsider New Year's celebrations. The nation now with its first known death from Omicron, an unvaccinated man in Texas. As people prepare to travel for the holidays, they're waiting hours in places like Miami and New York to get tested.
It's been frustrating to say the least.
The president with a warning for people who won't get vaccinated.
If you're not fully vaccinated, you have good reason to be concerned. Almost everyone who has died from COVID-19 in the past many months has been unvaccinated. Unvaccinated.
Look at the latest CDC statistics. In the unvaccinated, there are 6 COVID deaths per 100,000 people. For the vaccinated, that drops considerably to 0.5 deaths. Among those boosted, just 0.1 deaths per 100,000.
It is extraordinarily important for people to be vaccinated, and if you are eligible for a boost, to get boosted.
A plan is in place as Americans brace for the worst of the Omicron wave.
And now that Omicron is the dominant variant here in the U.S., the president said he's considering lifting the travel ban on countries in southern Africa, but no final decision has been made. Meanwhile, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz says he and his family tested positive for COVID yesterday. He says his son has mild symptoms while he and his wife have no symptoms. They're all vaccinated, and both Walz and his wife Gwen have gotten their boosters. The governor released a statement saying, quote, "I'm confident that these vaccines are protecting my family and me from serious illness." The governor will work from home and encourages all Minnesotans to get tested before the holidays and to get vaccinated. Meanwhile, the Secret Service is boosting its efforts to squash COVID-related fraud. Officials there say more than $1.2 billion has already been seized from those trying to take advantage of the ongoing pandemic. Roy Dotson is taking a lead role in the matter.
Obviously, with the modern conveniences today of online banking, cryptocurrencies, this allows fraudsters to move monies much more quickly.
Law enforcement officials say a spike in COVID cases during and after the holiday season could result in a rise of COVID-related scams. Food pantry visits are up 30% since the start of the pandemic, with about 42 million Americans experiencing food insecurity. According to the USDA, grocery prices were 5.4% higher this September than they were in 2020, and the price of meat has increased double digits. It's leaving families and food banks strapped.
You should never feel embarrassed or ashamed. You know, if you need help, come get it, you know, and then when you're able to, you give back, kind of like what we do.
At this warehouse in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, there's currently about 9 million pounds of food. While most food pantries rely on donations, a growing number of food on the shelves is purchased. Toys for Tots is making sure millions of children who might not have otherwise had anything under the tree this Christmas aren't going without. You might think a global pandemic would mean fewer toys, but that's not the case for them. A vice president with the Toys for Tots Foundation says that 2020 was a record year, even though they had fewer volunteers.
We distributed over 20 million toys to 7.4 million children despite the pandemic. You know, Marines are going to get the job done.
The 74-year-old program is run by the Marine Corps Reserve. 8 truckloads of toys are headed to communities that were devastated by tornadoes earlier this month. Well, today is Homeless Memorial Day, and a local group working to end homelessness is inviting you to a 5-block walk of remembrance tonight in downtown Fargo. The procession leaves from Broadway Square at 6:45 and will proceed north on Broadway to a memorial service at First Lutheran Church that starts at 7. The event honors people in our community who have died as a result of being unhoused. Over the past 20 years here in the Fargo-Moorhead area, more than 300 people are known to have died. Volunteers have raised more than $4,000 to help restock bookshelves at Grand Forks Public Schools. The Greater Grand Forks young professionals say throughout the pandemic, many books were taken home and never returned. The funds will be distributed in a weighted manner to the schools that need them the most. Nelson County Sheriff's deputies jumped into action when they got a report of a grumpy green creature impersonating the big guy. It happened during Santa Day at the Michigan North Dakota Mall. A deputy made the arrest with the help of some kids who were keeping the Grinch in check until he arrived. West Fargo police and firefighters are teaming up for their 3rd annual Battle of the Badges blood drive next week. Each group tries to get the most people to donate blood. The police department has taken home top honors the last 2 years in a row. For information and dates on times for the blood drive, head to our website, valleynewslive.com. Coming up, these aren't your ordinary long-distance runners. What's threatening their frozen marathons?
And our Tuesday began with some flaky follies, fluffy flying flakes across the valley today, totaling up to 3 or 4 inches for many of us here in the valley. But this is how we closed off the day on this winter solstice. Look at that sunset, a beautiful one indeed. Your forecast updated next.